Hello, welcome to this session. This is Chandrakant Shiragumpi, Assistant Professor of English, Srimati Lalita Devi Gurchiddappa Sindhur, Government First Grade College, Savanur. In this session, we shall learn about Death the Leveler, a poem written by James Shirley. This poem is prescribed for BA first semester students under Basic English from Karnataka University, Dharwad. Before going to the poem, let us know the learning objectives of this poem. To make students acquaint with the poet James Shirley, to make the students to know the various themes of the poem, to make the students understand that there is no armor against fate, to make students understand that all are equal before death, to make students understand that only good deeds outlast death. The learning outcomes of this poem are as follows. Students will be able to know about the poet briefly. Students will be able to know the various themes of the poem. Students will be able to know that man is helpless before death. Students will be able to understand that all are equal before death. And finally, students will be able to understand the importance of good deeds in one's life. In this session, we shall learn about the poet in brief, first of all, and then we shall learn about the various themes of this poem, and finally we shall have the analysis and explanation of the poem stanza wise. About the poet James Shirley. He was born in 1596 and died in 1666. He was an English dramatist and a poet, and he was an influential figure among the last generation of English Renaissance playwrights. He has written 30 plays, tragedies, tragic comedies, masks, and then the moral allegories. His memorable works are The Witty Fair One, Hyde Park, The Lady of Pleasure, The Traitor, and The Cardinal. The main themes of this poem are as follows. The first and the most important theme of this poem is death. The other themes of this poem are the human vanity, pomp and grandeur, the theme of equality before death, the theme of impermanency in life, and finally the theme of optimism. Before the analysis and explanation of this stanza, we shall learn about the poem in brief. It is a poem taken by James Shirley's the play The Contention of Ajax and Ulysses. The poem is written in three stanzas, each stanza having 8 lines, and the rhyme scheme of this poem is AB, AB, CC, and DD. It is a philosophical poem. It tells about the importance of death in one's life. It tells that death is the ultimate defeater. It tells about the human vanity, pomp, and grandeur. The writer also tells that only the good deeds in a life can be survived after one's death. This is how the poem ends with an optimistic tone. If we see the title of this poem, Death the Leveler, we will come to know that death is the ultimate leveler or the equalizer. It levels all the gaps between the rich and the poor, the gaps between the Lord and the labor, between the victor and the victims, between the strong and the weak, so on. All these gaps are ultimately leveled by the death. Here, death is an inescapable and an ultimate and an end point. It is the terminator and it is the conqueror of all human beings. Let us study the first stanza of this poem. But before going to the explanation, let me recite this stanza. The glories of our blood and state are shadows, not substantial things. There is no armor against fate. Death lays his icy hand on kings. Scepter and crown must tumble down, and in the dust be equal made with the poor crooked scythe and spade. Dear friends, the glories of our blood and state are shadows. Most of the times we are proud of our blood. Here, blood means the birth, means most of the times we are proud of or we boast of our birth, that I am a rich person, I am I belong to a royal family, or I am born of a high caste man, or I am born in a great religion, or I am a white man, and so many other things we boast of about our birth. And the state means we boast of our status or our position, that most of the times we do, that I am a king, I am a queen, I am the prime minister, I am the chief minister, I am the great lord, I am the great politician, and I am a great warrior. I am a gigantic person with so many positions and status. We are proud of and we boast of all these things, and most of the times we glorify about all these uh, about all these things. But the poet wants to tell that these are just the shadows, these are just the appearances. They are not substantial things. Substantial means considerable, important. They are not important things. They are not strong against death. We may boast of all these things, but they can do nothing against death because there is no armor against fate. Armor means it is a metal dress worn by the soldier to protect his body, but to protect the death, to guard against the death, we have no armor. We shall do nothing against fate, whatsoever we may be, rich or the poor, strong or the weak, no matter. Ultimately, we are going to succumb to death. Ultimately, we have to yield to death. James Shirley, he tells that further, death lays his icy hand on kings. Death is personified here, and as a person, it is going to put its icy hand on kings. It doesn't matter if you are a king, it doesn't matter if you are a president, it doesn't matter if you are of high born, it doesn't matter whatever you are, but ultimately death puts its icy hand. Icy means cold, means it is the final stroke by the death, and we have to bow before this death. Death lays his icy hand on kings, scepter and crown must tumble down. Scepter means it is an ornamented staff usually carried by the king, which is the symbol of authority. This scepter and the crown, which is worn by the king or the queen, must tumble down. Tumble down means fall down. Death doesn't leave the king thinking that he is a king. Never it leaves even the king also. He has to die, and his scepter and the crown must tumble down means he also one or the other day has to give up his crown and the scepter, and thus he should bid adieu to this world. Further, Shirley mentions that, and in the dust be equal made with the poor, crooked scythe and spade. Scythe is an equipment which is curved, which we call in Kannada kudugolu. And then spade is also an equipment used in the fields, which is called in Kannada salake or saluke. So what happens? And in the dust be made equal, in the dust be equal made with the poor crooked scythe and spade. Everybody is going to die, and ultimately what we are going to become? We are buried, and with the soil we are going to become dust. All the poor and the rich, everybody has to die one or the other day, and thus death is equalizing, it is leveling all alike. It has no partiality towards the kings or the poor, no partiality towards the strong and the weak, no partiality towards the good or towards the bad, and it has no partiality towards the politicians or towards the common man. The thing is that in front of death we are all equal, and ultimately we have to succumb to it, and we have to become dust with the dust. If we see the rhyming words of this poem, as it has already told, the rhyme scheme of this poem is AB, AB, CC, DD. For example, state, fate, thanks, kings, AB, AB, and then crown, down, made, spade. Stanza 2. Some men with swords may reap the field and plant fresh laurels where they kill, but their strong nerves at last must yield. They tame but one another still. Early or late, they stoop to fate, and must give up their murmuring breath when they, pale captives, creep to death. Some men with swords may reap the field. The poet wants to tell that there are some men who wants to achieve with their swords. With their swords, they may kill many people, they may conquer many kingdoms, they may occupy many regions, and thus they may reap the field, and by conquering many new lands and by conquering many new kingdoms and people, what they may do? They may get the titles, they may get the honors, they may get the laurels on their heads as a token of victory, where they kill and conquer the people and the land. But is it the final, or is it the ultimate thing, or is it forever? No. Can they be forever powerful? No. What James Shirley tells is that, but their strong nerves at last must yield. Howsoever powerful they might be, howsoever great they might be, howsoever strong they might be, howsoever strong nerves they might be, but they also have to yield, means they also have to surrender to death. They tame but one another still. The irony is that they tame but one another still. They are going to kill one another. Now, this person may kill the other one, but one or the other day, this will be killed by other, and finally, death is there to tame these so-called achievers or the strong people. Early or late, they stoop to fate. Some persons may live long. They may live for 90 years or 100 years. Some persons may live for short period, 20, 30, 40, like that. But whatever it might be, early or late, they have to stoop to fate. Stoop means to bend. They have to bend. They have to stoop to fate. Fate means here destiny, the death. Okay, all of us we have to stoop before the death. Means all of us have to die one or the other day. Some may die early, some may die late, but whatever it might be, we have to stoop to fate and must give up their murmuring breath. And at the end of their life, the so-called achievers, they have to give up their breath, their murmuring breath. They have to give up their murmuring breath and hand it over to the death. When they pale captives creep to death, James Shirley calls the people here as the pale captives. They are captivated by the death, the ultimate leveler or the ultimate equalizer. He is going to captivate us with the stroke of his death, and when we die and when we creep into the graves, what happens? We have to give up our murmuring breath, and thus the death is the ultimate conqueror, once again proved in this stanza as well. If if we see the rhyming words of this stanza, we shall know once again A B A B C C D D. The first line end rhyme, that is field, is going to rhyme with yield, and then kill, still, late, fate, breath, death. Third stanza, let me recite. The garlands wither on your brow, then boast no more your mighty deeds. Upon death's purple altar now, see where the victim bleeds. Your heads must come to the cold tomb. Only the actions of the just smell sweet and blossom in their dust. In this stanza, the poet wants to tell again the importance of death, about the power of death. He tells that the garlands wither on your brow. Here the garlands means the rewards or the titles which we are going to get after our achievements. The mighty people, when they conquer the people and the land, in return they get many rewards or the tokens or the garlands or the trophies. But are these going to remain forever? No, they are not permanent. They also one or the other day have to wither. They also one or the other day have to dry out. That is why James Shirley tells that then boast no more your mighty deeds. You may boast of your mighty deeds that I have achieved so many things, I have built uh, so many things I have built, and so many people I have conquered, or the so many things I have. It is like the poem P.B. Shelley's Ozymandias, where he boasts of his mighty deeds, but what happens to him as well? Finally, he is also the victim of the death. Like whatever we might be, howsoever mighty our deeds might be, but all of them they are going to uh, yield to death. Upon death's purple altar now, see where the victim bleeds. Death is like an altar where you are going to sacrifice the animals. Upon death's purple altar, what happens now? Now there are the victor and the victims, the killer and the killed. Everybody is on the purple altar now, means death sees everybody equally. It never takes bias. It sees everyone equal. Further, the poet tells that your heads must come to the cold tomb. While living, you may boast of your deeds with a felled head, but when you die, you have to bend your head and you have to come to the cold tomb. Tomb means the grave, the burial ground where after the death everybody is buried. But in this stanza, the last two lines are important. So far, the poet told about the power of death as the human beings helpless and helpless before death. But if we want to remain forever in this world, is there any possibility? Yes. Shirley tells that only the actions of the just means good, means appropriate. Only the actions of the just smell sweet and blossom in their dust. While living, if we do the good works, if we do the things for the people, Then even thou become dust with the dust, then even though we die and the body is no more, yet there is the sweet smell of our deeds. People will remember us not for our bad deeds, but the just ones and the good deeds that we have made for them in our life. This is how the poet is going to end this poem with an optimistic note that only the good works can outlast death. If we see the rhyming words of this stanza, we will come to know again: brow, no, deeds, blades, come, tomb, just, dust. Dear friends, there have been 8 multiple choice questions on this poem. Please go through these and try to understand without looking at the answer. Now let's have the recapitulation. So far, stanza wise, we understood the poem. It is the time to summarize and it is the time to recapitulate whatever we have learned so far. Well, the first thing is that there is no armor against fate, and in no way we can defend us. In no way we can guard against the death, and there is no such thing to protect us from the death. And the second one is that all are made equal in the dust, means death is the leveler, it is the equalizer, it doesn't do any bias, and before death everybody is equal, all are alike, and everybody should succumb to it, and everybody should die one or the other day. And then strong people also should creep to death. It, as it is already told, that it is the equalizer, and howsoever strong, powerful, okay, beautiful, whatsoever you might be, but one has to die one or the other day, and then all glory and beauty withers. In this world, whatever we have, the boast of something, of my richness or of my beauty or of my strength or of my power, whatsoever it might be, but it is all going to wither with the death. And finally, only good actions remain forever. If we do good in this world, that is the thing that it remains after the death. And if one wants to live even after death, means one has to do good deeds, then only we can live forever. Thank you so much.